Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan. You're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part? Initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wall Street Hackers, one of the most popular programs on the Pod TV network, which broadcasts on Roku TV. We have our own channel on Roku, plus Amazon Fire. You can follow us there. Plus, of course, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and our traditional distribution channels to over 150 countries. And today we're going to discuss stocks. It's the big thing on Wall Street Hackers. And with that, we have the hacker himself who's going to be discussing it, who actually has a bachelor's degree in economics from UCLA. Also, he has a law degree from the University of Miami and an MBA from NYU, spending 17 years trading stocks on the street. We're going to bring you none other than the famous Peter Bennett. Peter, welcome to your show.
Hey, Nick. Actually, I have to correct you. I had lots of positions in Wall Street, but I never was a stock rater. But I learned, sort of self-taught myself that, partly in the environment and partly afterwards. So anyway, welcome to Wall Street Hackers, September 12th, 2024. You can catch a new episode most weeks, and probably next week we might have a technical issue, but I don't think we will. So we'll probably be on next week, generally every week, starting Thursdays at 1 or Saturdays, depending on your distribution channel. So we start with markets. The markets are clearly in a period of great uncertainty, and that's evidenced by the fact the S&P 500 has been basically almost exactly flat since June. And investors have concerns about a possible recession, the upcoming election, and whether the Fed will really be reducing rates quickly. The flat performance is especially notable given that many in the markets are once again delusional about rate cuts and are saying there might be 3 rate cuts this year. Others are saying there will be definitely 4 rate cuts next year. That's kind of that optimistic delusion that was there for years when Wall Street was hacker. It was saying, no way, no way. We do think there will be a quarter cut in September, maybe another quarter, but the Fed has to move slowly because It's data dependent, as it always says, and the data is not so clear. I see a lot of signs that we are moving into a slower economy, certainly. A report just came out that said that consumer credit is at an all-time high. And interestingly, Citibank just said that there's seen a shift in their consumer credit card debt. And the shift has been away from discretionary spending and towards non-discretionary / essential spending. So the consumer is under the gun and it might slow things down. But as we mentioned last week, travel was at an all-time high of 9% year after year. There's a lot of signs that the consumer may not slow down. So who can say if the Fed will have the opportunity to slow down inflation in the long run? Wall Street Hackers has three main concerns right now. Number one, can the Fed really bring down rates and keep inflation down? I've heard concerns, and I have some concerns that as they bring rates down, will inflation just reignite? Or on the other side, will it not be a soft landing and, too hard? Either one you have to worry about. Number two is a major concern for the short and long run, which is out of control government spending, and especially that U.S. debt is about $125 trillion. You'll hear every day all over the news, even conservative economic sites, 35 trillion in debt. No, it's about 125 trillion. And that's factual because on the GAAP basis, general accounting principles that everyone follows, households, businesses, except for the U.S. government, the debt is about $125 trillion because of unfunded Medicare and Social Security liabilities. And this will catch up to us and may be catching up to us now. Every month, every year, all the money that they were taking in for Social Security and Medicare and spending on other expenses now is no longer there because more and more has to actually be used for what it was designed for. So that means the government needs to essentially print more money to just cover their expenses because they don't have that revenue source anymore. And the numbers are staggering. 125 trillion is staggering in terms of the debt. Most other countries, by the way, I always have to defend the U.S. in a way because I've looked at countries in Asia, in South America, in Europe, and they're almost in all exactly the same situation. Very aging demographics, especially aging demographics in China, pre-healthcare systems where they have aging populations and they put very little or none away, and underfunded retirement systems like our Social Security. So it's a worldwide issue. And my number three concern, if you watch, is the upcoming election, where for the first time in U.S. history, we may elect a president with a probably very socialist viewpoint. They say, it doesn't matter who's in the White House, but that will be a change if it happens. Even with her best efforts at economic ideas, they were totally off the mark. Her first idea was to put in price controls and price controls on groceries. It couldn't have been more absurd. I don't know who her advisors are or how little they know, but it's really scary in a way. So price controls have failed since they were tried in the first time in early Rome. They failed miserably. They failed in the Soviet Union. People used to wait 4 hours in bread lines because of these price controls and their policies. In Venezuela, they were fighting inflation and it failed totally. People lost 19 pounds on average per person in 1 year because of food shortages. Nixon tried it and had to give up in 3 months during very high inflation in the 70s. Carter tried it during very high inflation in the 70s, and it was one of the reasons we had, quote, economic malaise, and it helped him get thrown out of office. Maybe the main cause, along what was going on in Iran. So that was not a solid policy. So, okay, she made a mistake. So, okay, I'm sure she'll get it right. She proposed a $25,000 benefit to help home buyers. And this would do little or nothing to increase supply or anything for anybody. Let's say we give home buyers $25,000 and I'm a home seller. Guess what? My price goes up. By how much? $25,000. Why not? At least, maybe more, because now there's more buyers in the market. So it doesn't help the fundamental issues. And that was on the first rounds. And you think, okay, they might think we made mistakes and let's try to correct this. Let's come out with a really solid proposal. So then very recently, she proposed an 18% tax on unrealized capital gains. Now, I could see an increase in capital gains, but on 18% tax on unrealized gains, even her ardent business supporters criticized this severely. If it had existed, that tax, we wouldn't have the Magnificent Seven. We'd maybe not even know who they were. And we certainly wouldn't have the S&P 500 as it is formulated today. What we would have is the S&P 500 as mid caps or maybe small caps, because this would stifle growth and reinvestment so much that companies couldn't become what they become today. So terrible economic ideas. If she's elected, I know she won't do it probably, but contact me. At least I give you another perspective on economics, if nothing else. You need to have diverse opinions. Anyway, this is what she managed to put out in 6 weeks, and we have no idea absolutely whether she's changed her positions, which she's been taking her whole lifetime. She's given a total interviews of 17 minutes. She's very strongly avoiding interviews. She won't take questions, and the few questions she took during 17 minutes were from a very friendly Dana Bash, and she didn't really give any policy answers anyway. So we really don't know what her policies would be, but we can suspect based on her history. She was good in the debate to some people, but again, no policy answers. General sayings, platitudes, but not saying what she would do or answering why she's had a change in opinion, if you believe she has. And that includes her very strong prior beliefs on the economy, crime, and immigration, to name a few. So Wall Street Hackers has been moving a little bit more defensive in the last month than we've warned you, and the market really hasn't gone anywhere. But this week, instead of a specific investment, we're going to give an overview of how we're positioned in terms of allocations and the investments, what we prefer. Then next week, we'll return with another food sector stock. Quote of the week section. This is from Bank of America's CEO, Brian Moynihan, who was saying that the ideal time for political leaders to address the nation's ballooning budget deficits is now. Quote, we need our eyes and stomach aligned as a country. We've got to balance the budget like anybody, any company, any person, any household. We're in relatively good times and have been. Policy choices have to be made. Revenue side issues like taxation to spending issues and the efficiency of government itself. All of these things have to be on the table. Well, I fully agree with some of that. I mean, a lot of it is spot on, but he's so wrong in terms of the timing. This time to do this was not now, is not now. It was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, possibly 10 years ago. You don't wait until the last minute to do this. This is the last few years where you won't be able to run away from this issue. And we need very intelligent strategies. He's right about we need more revenue, but they have to be really intelligent revenue strategies that won't depress the economy. We need drastically to cut wasteful spending, and we need still economic growth policies in place. So all of the above need to be done, but this should have been done a long time ago, and time is getting short in terms of government doing anything about this. It's part of the political division, which we'll be discussing the root causes during our panel discussion. Interesting stories of the week. Number one, Wall Street Hackers almost never, I don't know, maybe twice I've repeated the interesting story, but this one was just so interesting, and I only saw it reported in one place, so I'm just going to repeat this one. It should be all over the news because it's going to possibly affect your view of the sky in 10 years. So, in September 22, NASA's double asteroids redirect test intentionally collided with the tiny moonlet, which orbited an asteroid to test asteroid deflection technology. Scientists believe the crash produced 2 million pounds worth of rocks and dust, and a study suggests small fragments. Don't worry, it's not the end of the world kind of asteroid, but small fragments are likely to land on Earth and in Mars in 10 years to 30 years. And the meteor showers could last up to the century. The debris might potentially generate light shows over Earth for about 100 years. And we will find them out when they start arriving in 10 to 30 years. The good news particularly was NASA successfully nudged Dimorphos into a different orbit, which helps efforts to deflect space objects from Earth. Wish I had a teleprompter. Anyway, but that's basically, sometimes you just have to read these things. Anyway, interesting story number 2. But that is amazing. I mean, we may look up in 20 years and say, oh, look at all those shiny things. You'd think it'd be covered more. Interesting story number 2. There are significantly fewer spotted lanternflies feasting on vegetation across New York City this summer, and entomologists are crediting human intervention, basically stamping out the tree killers on site, and that's the cause of the drop. Lanternflies arrived in New York City in 2020 from Southeast Asia, and New Yorkers have become very adept at eliminating them. Other factors that are cited are likely probable increases in natural predators like spiders, birds, and praying mantises. But in New York City, at least, the lanternfly epidemic was much smaller yesterday, thanks to humans giving back the battle. As the Disney expression goes, it is tough to be a bug. Interesting story number 3. A really interesting story, too, and a little worrisome, to say the least. A new China law opens doors to spies in the U.S. China's government has just positioned itself to embed communist spies at Microsoft and other companies that do business in their country. That will further expose countries to theft of trade secrets, employee poaching, and intimidation tactics. A new version of Beijing's, quote, company law took effect July 1st, and it requires multinational firms with more than 300 workers to appoint a, quote, employee representative to their China affiliate board of directors. These representatives are almost certain to be in direct contact with Chinese authorities or the Communist Party. And they will have the right to tell an employee, oh, I need to get this information, just download this into a chip, or to infiltrate confidential meetings, and to generally facilitate intellectual property theft, also to get employee data on employees and their families. Not a good sign, and a new level of China's basically very unfair trade practices, not basically unfair trade practices. So, new section, what to do. This week, we're doing an overview on allocations and sectors. And next week, we'll return to, as I said, another food sector pick. Disclaimers, Wall Street Hackers is for educational purposes only. There are no guarantees on any of our suggestions. And of course, there's no guarantees on anything. You can buy a CD, of course, it's guaranteed, or a treasury bill, but that's subject to inflation risk. And these are only our opinions. Consult your financial advisor. So, as always, our philosophy is to pick businesses, stocks, REITs, and MLPs that generate income, ideally high income, have safe balance sheets, high cash flows, and that are in the safer sectors. We frequently mention that the Hartford Fund study that said over 50 years to 2022, and the Morningstar study of 96 years to 2020 that show that dividend stocks, high dividend stocks, and dividend growth stocks are definitely the place to be. They far outperformed other stocks. Also, I mean by double and triple. And also that we've cite studies that show that there's been very significant long-term and general outperformance by REITs and energy stocks. So we go with the past history, although they say it's not a guaranteed future results. It's a pretty good sign when you look at 100 years of history. So our allocations, which are a little tighter than they have been. MPLX is our largest allocation at 20 to 25%. Excuse me. Thank you. MPLX is our largest allocation, 20 to 25%, leaning toward 25%. It's a U.S. tax-favored MLP. It's pipelines, which are generally very safe because there's demand pull, and they are delivering oil and natural gas. It's more oily than natural gas, which is one thing I like too, although probably both will be continued to be used for many years. But I like the outlook for oil over natural gas for reasons I won't get into in this show, at least for the next few years. Anyway, it has an 8% yield. Price over cash flow is 7.25, which is basically a 14% cash flow. So it's earning 14% cash flow, and that excludes the money they're spending, which is significant, on future growth projects. So if they ever needed to cut back, they could always just cut back those projects and generate more cash flow. Here's a kicker. There's a very good chance, based on history, that, and it's a yearly kind of thing, that they will increase their dividend probably 5 to 10%. That's what I'm hoping for, in early November. So that will bring the yield up to maybe 8.5, 9, somewhere in there, and potential future growth. Our number 2 largest equity allocation is SRRTF, which I discussed recently. It's Slate Grocery REIT, a 10% allocation to a REIT which is 100% grocery anchored, unlike many shopping centers, and all open air shopping centers. I really like the open air shopping center picture much more than malls, because there's always demand because of the essentials like groceries. And also, there's very little building now of open air shopping centers because of shortage of land and also the increasing cost of building. So there's a lot of demand for these. And they also, by the way, have much under market rents. It's a Canadian REIT that owns, I believe, only U.S. properties, and they're located mostly in the South. I own it in a 401k and IRA to avoid double taxation, since for U.S. residents, there's a 15% withholding tax on, so Canada just take 15% off the top. So I don't want to pay the 15% plus, any dividend taxes or, taxes on the REIT, I should say. But it could be owned anywhere, but I preferred to pay the 15% now, and I'll worry about the other taxes later. I have owned it previously in my Roth IRA, but now it's just in my 401k and IRA. Next allocation, Canadian oil producers and U.S. and Canadian utilities, just 2% right now, partly only because I'm so much in power. I mean, my total allocation power is probably over 30%. So right now, it's probably a good place to be. There's a few reasons. One, data centers and chip growth is happening worldwide, and especially in the U.S., and that is driving power demand by a lot. And Asia also has an almost unquenchable demand for natural gas liquids and oil, because they need it to replace, less clean, let's say, or dirty burning coal. So there's probably going to be resource demand for decades at least. Next allocation, and this is a slight change. KRP was formerly 3%, but I just took a nice profit and moved to about 0.5% for now. I may regret this. I'm torn on this one totally. But because of the situation, because I'm high in energy, and because they are subject to energy chain prices, I'm afraid heading into the fall season, plus the election, plus other concerns by the market that if we head into a recession, that energy prices may go down, and KRP will move with that because they make a lot of money. They do own 16% land that contains 16% of all the oil rigs in America. And I have to move because we have to get to the panel discussion. So the last big one is 4% high coupon treasuries. I picked 4% high coupon treasuries, 30 years I bought, because I'm close to retirement than I used to be for sure. And their general formula is 60-40, 40% bonds, or 100 minus your age in bonds. But this is really personal. It depends on your age, depends on your taste for risk. So I like the steady cash flow that I may need or want, and the security of that as a ballast to my other more aggressive investments. So we'll be watching all these things closely, especially KRP and a couple others, for future opportunities, and see what's happening in the next 2 months and maybe beyond for any significant changes. Panel question of the week. So question, why is the country so divided? Background. I have to go fast, as always. Here's a 1-month-old survey of 1,200 registered Biden voters. This is just the background. After answering where they got their news, the top answers was ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and MSNBC. Here's what they were unaware of. They were asked, did you know Harris would consider allowing death row inmates to vote? 86% were unaware that Harris promoted a fund to bail out violent protesters. 77% Harris supported abolishing ICE. 75% that she was named the most liberal senator in 2019. She said it should not be considered to be a crime to enter the U.S. illegally. 74%. She could supported funding the police. 71% didn't know that, and that she supported reparation client to atone for slavery. 71%. So that one last one. It's amazing that people don't know some of this, but the thing is, I have friends. I'm actually moderate. I may not like Kamala's economic policies, but on some policies, I'm a liberal on some policies. I'm a moderate on some policies, and I'm conservative on a lot of economic policies, particularly. But it runs the gamut. And I have a lot of intelligent friends, but they know almost nothing when it comes to politics in terms of only know half the story. They're totally unaware of what's going on, half of it, basically, because they only are willing to watch one side of the news. Harris herself has said during the debate and otherwise ridiculous things that had to be because she only watches one side of the news or everybody she works with. It was unbelievable. She keeps repeating these things in debate and otherwise. She said, Trump said he would be a dictator. His actual quote was, "Except for day one, I want to close the border and I want to drill, drill, drill." He was kidding when asked if he would be a dictator. During the debate, she said, "You're going to hear in detail a dangerous plan called Project 25, which she keeps attributing to Trump. Trump has repeatedly said he was involved in writing, he opposes some of the ideas, and he won't implement it." How many times did you have to say it before she stopped saying it? She said during the debate. Kamala said, "Let's remember that this individual took a full-page ad out in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young blacks." Well, you can look at the ad. It was a 1989 advertisement. It did not even mention the Central Park 5 Part 5 execution. It only talked about a rape in the park and didn't even mention anything specific about the suspects and who they were. And in the debate, she said, "Remember Charlottesville and the mob spewing hate. And what did the president say? There were fine people on each side." Well, the president said there were fine people on each side. She's right, except for anybody who would check that would know that he then said, "I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists because they should be considered totally, condemned totally. But you have many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists." So, Nick, we are short on time, but we have 2 minutes, so you have to go fast. Why is the nation so divided, and what are your conclusions?
Well, they're divided because politicians want us divided so they can raise money. As a federal judge told me, follow the money. If we all agreed, then they can't call you up and say, "Hey, Peter, we need a donation to stop Donald Trump." And we can't, if we were all agreed, we couldn't get a call, "Hey, we need a donation to stop Kamala Harris." So it is in the interest of the media, who gets revenues from political ads, and the interest of the Democratic and Republican Party, who get money from suckers that are scared, to continue to keep us divided. My recommendation, Peter, is people drop their party affiliation. Democrat and Republican become independent. When you went to law school, they said, "We're going to teach you how to think independently, not be a sheep, not be a goat, be independent, and treat independent issues." By the way, I like what you brought up about Kamala Harris. I honestly believe she has no clue what she's doing when it comes to the economy. She has no background in economics. You have a degree in economics. She has no background in business. You have a degree in business. She is a lawyer, but you are too. I mean, you have a law degree and she does too. So when you mention price controls, you're right. Historically,
Nick, I have to cut in because we have literally a minute left.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to have to shorten this, but here's the bottom line. The media is sensationalist because it drives ratings. If you say, one side is terrible, and both sides are guilty of it, but especially the left-wing media, which is 90% of the media, you get great ratings. Oh, the world is ending. We need to, tell you about these terrible stories. It makes it interesting. But there's a history of this, which I can't get into now of when it happened, but it was in 2016 when there was a shift. And the bottom line is the media is hurting the country. It's dividing the country. And it's hurting the Democratic Party, which is what I point out, because it gives them much weaker candidates because they never have to answer the hard questions, and they don't get more intelligent perspectives on the issues because, again, they don't have to dig as deeply. They can just say what they want and do what they want, and there's not enough introspection, and it's hurt everybody. It's dividing the country. It's not good. Thanks for watching Wall Street Hackers. We're running over as always. We're busy reporting. I believe we'll be back next week. We're going to try to be back next week. We'll definitely be back in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll see you next Thursday or Saturday. As Kim always says, get healthy, get wealthy. See you soon. Bye, Nick.